Hello everyone, your pal 6Speed here, and today I'm doing a bit of a double feature. So I've already uploaded a video on how to launch your boat and recover your boat in a nutshell, kind of a quick guide. So I'll link that down in the description. Anyway, right now we're just going to kind of do a few general life updates, stuff that's been going on with me and stuff like that, because I know I haven't really been here on YouTube much lately. I'll be try not to ramble too much. I know I'm very notorious for that. So my stuffed corgi right here, Short Round, and I are going to we're going to update you on a few life stuff. I want to prevent it from falling on my head. Anyway, point is, there have been some changes in my life, some positive, some negative, and just general things that have occurred and that has made it harder for me to shoot and upload videos, stuff like that. So we're going to kind of go over that. So positive changes, well, for those of you who don't follow me on social media will know that I actually sold the 6-speed Dakota. Yeah, I was very, very sad to see it go. A coworker of mine told me there's a Quincy Jones song that goes, "Everything must change." And same thing goes with vehicles. I mean, I loved it dearly. I still love it dearly. I mean, I wish I could get behind the wheel and rock it through the gears one more time, every time. I think of that thing every time I hear the engine revving sound for that little video clip. I just wish that I could rev it one more time. I wish I could drive it one more time. So I actually sold it the day after Good Friday. I took it for one last drive on Good Friday. I smiled, I grinned and bore it, whatever, because I didn't want the last time driving that truck to be a sad memory. My wife and I, we decided wanted something a little bit more practical, more fuel efficient. So we went and bought a Kia Sorento 2013 7-passenger. Weren't in the market for a 7-passenger, but it was on the lot. The price was really good, especially when I stuck my grandfather-in-law on them. He is a ruthless negotiator, and ended up getting us a screaming deal. It only had 23,000 kilometers on it. It's got, I think, 35,650 or something. I just drove it today. I think that's what it's got on it. So driven it up to Christina Lake a couple times. Tows the boat really nicely. V6 tow package. I have a video that I'm going to edit and upload that has a small little tour of it, but we absolutely love the thing. I mean, the amount of times I've carried 6 passengers, having that extra row of seats is fantastic. Lots of space, and this thing could wax my truck in a drag race. Like, it's actually legitimately quick. It's got 50 more horsepower in the truck. So it really hauls when you step on it. Anyway, I do miss a stick shift, but my commute through traffic every day, it's really, really nice to go to an automatic. I can get my stick shift fixed every so often, but I do definitely miss that. So that was one change. My wife, she got a job just up the road from where I work currently. So we commute together every day. So that's another positive change, and her benefits are fantastic. So that kind of goes with some of the negative changes. So working for this company that I have, I pulled a lot of overtime at the beginning of this year, and it really, really burned me out quite a bit. And so, unfortunately, I've been kind of exhausted almost, stressed out. Like, my stress levels had kind of reached the point where I was starting to develop physical health issues again. I've been through that before, and that really sucks. So I kind of had to take a step back, kind of reduce my loading a little bit. I've stopped doing the overtime. It's nice to get the extra money, but when it's affecting you in such a negative way, it's not worth it. It really isn't. I mean, family and your life, your health have to come first. So And because my wife has such fantastic benefits, I've been able to start seeing a counselor. I've seen him twice now, and I have kind of gotten the will to kind of make a few positive changes. Um, Not quite going to go into that just yet, but I have to start focusing on what's best for me, and not necessarily what's best for everyone else. So unfortunately, I haven't been able to do as much auto repair because of it, just because I was burned out quite a bit. I still do some here and there. My shop is like 40 minutes away from where I am, so when I go to my parents' house, the shop at my parents' house, I kind of have to monopolize my time there because it's hard for me to get out all the way out there just to do an oil change or something like that. So I've been doing more and more mobile service and stuff like that, and to bring the cameras along is a bit of a pain. So I've been doing a little bit of that here and there. So I have plenty of footage, and I am going to start, you know, I used to come home on a Friday night after school, and I would edit videos till 10, 11, even midnight, later than that, to upload them Saturday evening. At the time, I had a lot slower internet, so it took almost all day to upload some videos. And I really, actually, now that I stepped back and looked at it, I really miss doing that. So I'm going to start bringing more and more content to you, the viewers, just because, I really, really miss doing that. So we're going to have a couple new segments. Well, one of them I kind of already do because I really do like doing lecture videos. So they're called 6 Speeds Lectures. I have a couple of them out already. And just kind of explaining how things work, the theory behind it. It's helpful for me because I don't have to physically get down on the ground, stuff like that. I was diagnosed with a herniated esophagus, so I get acid reflux quite often, and like basically 24/7. And when I start lying on my back or bending over, stuff like that, it starts to come back up. So it's getting harder for me to kind of get underneath cars and stuff like that. I know I got to lose a bit of my belly here, gained a bit of weight, so that's going to be another change that I will be making in the future to help kind of alleviate that. But doing the lectures is less physically demanding for me. I don't mind sitting on the couch editing and speaking and voicing over. That's actually fairly simple. So we're going to do a little bit more of that. And I want to do a little segment called 6 Speeds 2 Cents. My wife came up with that name, actually. I thought it was a fantastic name. So we're going to do a little bit of that. Kind of my opinion on things. And then I would love to have a discussion, in the comments below, stuff like that. And then maybe do a follow-up video afterwards. It's not to spark controversy. It's my opinion, and I love hearing everyone else's opinion, and I don't mind discussing that. I thought about potentially doing a podcast or a live show. I just don't think at this point in time I have a viewer base big enough to do that. But maybe in the future if things kind of pick up a little bit more. So that's another thing. So another, I guess, update is we still have the little green Mazda. It's been a real thorn in my side the last few months. It started acting up and having issues in August. And after throwing a bunch of stuff at it, I finally gave up and had to take it to a shop. I just don't have the scan tools, the lab scopes. I don't want to be putting $10,000, $15,000, $20,000 worth of expenses into tools that I will use once or twice. I don't have enough lab scope diagnostics and stuff like that experience, and let alone enough kind of customer base to make that worth it. It's just not. If I did this for a living every day and I could company expense it, yeah, that would make more sense. At this point in time, it's just not. He charged me a reasonable amount, clean the EGR out. It was basically falling on its face. Wouldn't even climb a hill. It was running rough, giving me a flashing check engine light and a random misfire code. Tried new O2 sensor, fuel pump, filter, strainer, all that stuff. He ended up throwing new spark plugs in it and cleaning the EGR passages out. and it was running great for about a month, and then yesterday, which was Friday morning, on our way to work, and all of a sudden it wouldn't even make it through the stoplight, so they had to turn around, come back. It wasn't too far from the house, and take the key to work. Which the bigger issue was that it needed to go in for warranty work because the parking brake wasn't working properly. I had to reach up and press down on the release mechanism to get it to unlock. Almost found that out the hard way. I was stuck at a restaurant, it wouldn't go. So my in-laws had to unfortunately lend me their vehicle because obviously my only working vehicle that they were going to take to Kia for me was wasn't there for them at our house, which they were going to pick it up from. So they had to pick it up from my work, which is actually more convenient for them anyway. But point is, yeah, I think the Mazda Roddy is what I call it, from the name from the Roadkill episode, is it's just causing me grief. My feeling is it might be a coil. I don't want to start tossing parts at it again because that gets expensive. So we'll have to see what the outcome of that is. I like the car. It's a little beater car. It gets awesome gas mileage, and it really doesn't cost anything to run until now. And I don't like putting a ton of miles on the Kia. So I guess we'll have to see about that. The Kia, I've had a couple issues with it. The battery died on me once. And that's, I think, because the battery was in bad shape. It had sat on the lot for quite a while. The parking brake was another issue. I had some issue with the transmission shifting improperly and oil pan leak. So that was fixed under warranty. Wonderful. They did a wonderful job. They did a transmission shifting memory relearn on it, and it was perfect. I don't know why it was bang shifting into second. I would only do it occasionally, but ever since they did that relearn, it has been absolutely flawless and never missed a beat. I do like having the push button start. I always tend to lose my keys, so just not even having to take them out of my pocket is a really nice thing. And the only other thing is I tend to lose the clicker because it falls off the little key, so I might have to glue it in there. So if I need the key, I'll have to break the glue, but whatever, it's not a big deal. I just don't want to lose my clicker anymore. So yeah, that's our vehicles. The boat is great. I got tons of use out of it this summer, and even though I was really stressed out and stuff like that, it is truly my genuine. I got to use it so much, like every single weekend. My wife loves to go out on it. It was fantastic. We had a lake day with a bunch of friends. Physically, it's in fantastic shape. I redid the gel coat, which didn't quite work out, with Interlux paint. It looks fantastic. I put the proper decals on it because I didn't want to put it on gel coat that wasn't working properly. So I just kind of tried to use it last year as much as I could. It was late in the season when I got it out, so I maybe got about 6 to 8 weeks of use out of it. Not much. Physically, the only thing is I think there's a scratch on one side. Easy to fix. That Interlux paint's fantastic for touching up scratches. Underneath, stupid me put it on a set of tires that was on a makeshift trailer at my grandparents' place. You know, the boathouse that it was originally in. I never put any covering over the tires, and these old Goodyear bias ply things cut right into the paint on the bottom. So I got about a 2 foot by 2 foot patch I need to fix. But other than that, it's wonderful. The plug was leaking quite extensively, I found out. So I replaced the lever style plug with a twist plug. So when you twist it, it expands the plug out. That was so much better, and it stopped leaking. So that's fixed. The only other thing I've noticed is the steering wheel mount's kind of broken. I might try glue it back together before I have somebody try and braze that thing. It's just made of pot metal, but minor things. Want to get the paddles restored. That might be a project for this season, this off season. Want to get my fuel tank powder coated. That might be a project for next season at this point, because the last couple of seasons I've noticed when I've drained the gear oil that there's a lot of water. It's not like running out liquid, but I got a kind of a gray emulsified mix of water in the gear oil. The motor runs fantastically. Every time you start it, it fires right up. There's never any issue with that. It is super reliable. Like, it never misses a beat, never hiccups, never stalls, nothing. I noticed it tends to vapor lock. I think that's because of the ethanol in the gas, but I'm not sure. But if you let it cool down, it's fine. And as long as it's running, it runs fantastically. It seems to have more issues on a hot day than a cold day. That's why I'm kind of pointing towards vapor lock. But this gear oil problem has been a recurring issue. When I restored the boat in 2016, I pulled the gearbox out, replaced the water pump, and I noticed that the shaft was all marked up. I had actually put a couple SKF repair sleeves on it. That didn't seem to work. I also put a seal in upside down, so I tried to alleviate that this year. I replaced one of the repair sleeves, and those things are expensive. They're like $50 a piece. When I drained it this year, it was even worse than it was last year, probably because I used it a lot more. I need to pressure test the gearbox, but the prop shaft is fine. Everything else is perfect. The shift shaft seals, I've replaced everything. And it still seems to be a recurring issue, so I'm thinking that repair sleeve is just not restoring the sealing surface properly. So at this point, I have kind of two options. I don't want to replace the motor just yet. It's going to cost probably close to $10,000 at the end of the day when all the smoke clears to replace that motor with a different one, because I'll probably have to change the steering system, get new controls, all kinds of stuff. So I'm not really ready to do that just yet. Things are very expensive. We live just outside of Vancouver, BC, and this is probably one of the most expensive places in Canada to live. So throwing $10,000 at a boat that's maybe worth half that, at this point, just isn't worth it. I just don't have that kind of disposable income, especially when we're trying to save to buy a house. So at this point, I can't really upgrade to something newer because I've looked on Craigslist and stuff like that, and just locally, there just isn't much in the 40 to 50 horse range. You need a 75, 80, 100, 150, 200, all those big motors. Well, that caused my boat to sink if I put that on there. So obviously that's not really feasible. I'm looking kind of for a 50 to 60. There just isn't much out there right now. There are eBay motors, but the problem is they don't ship to Canada, and if you did ship them across the border, shipping's expensive, duty is ridiculous, and with the instability of the economy, just the way it is, it's 25% cost increase on top of that because you're paying in US dollars. So at this point, replacing the motor is not really a feasible option. I haven't decided whether I'm just going to try to change the gear oil a little bit more often, maybe 2-3 times a season, to kind of alleviate that. I've used synthetic gear oil, which deals with water contamination a little better. My other options are to get a new shaft, one that's new old stock, which in my opinion isn't really an option because new old stock shaft is still carbon steel. It'll still rust, and I'll be back at square one in a few years anyway. My other option is to have a shaft custom machined, which is what I'm kind of leaning towards. I'll have to get a quote from a machine shop, but it's actually not as bad as I thought it was going to be. In fact, I've heard it can be even cheaper than one that's new old stock. We'll have to find out. Or my other option is to have the existing shaft machined and plasma sprayed with stainless steel, and then machined again back to the proper dimensions. That can get expensive. But if it's less than the cost of a custom shaft, which is obviously less than the cost of a new old stock shaft, it's kind of a no-brainer. I know the lip seals don't seal that great, and those gearboxes were never particularly watertight, but it's kind of excessive at this point, and I don't want this thing to die on me. The most kind of biggest concern I have about the boat at the moment is that motor is something's going to go bad in it that's going to cost an arm and a leg to fix, because hard parts are very hard to come by. Everything you got to buy is either used or new old stock, and those get expensive. Even a distributor cap could be upwards of $300 to $400. So she runs perfectly, and I want to keep it running as long as I possibly can. I'm not super concerned about keeping it all original, because that's not the original motor that came on the boat. If I had an old white colored Mark Series Mercury, I'd be more inclined to restore it and keep it that way. As I don't want to go backward, I don't really want to replace it with a different one that's older. If I'm going to upgrade, I want to go something brand new or fairly new. But that's just not in the cards right now. So I have to deal with calling some machine shops and figuring out what it's going to cost to replace. Luckily, I work in manufacturing right now, so it's pretty simple to. I got some connections to some machine shops and stuff like that. So that's kind of in the works. I put it away for the winter a few weeks ago. Last weekend in September, I had kind of hidden it away in the car tent, and it's going to stay there all winter. So yeah, that's pretty much it right now. So going to be coming at you a little bit more. So be prepared for more content. That's the long and short of it all. And I really hope that that this will pay off. And like I said, changes for the better I will be making. So I hope that you can join me for that. And I appreciate all of you that have been along for the ride. And I'm sorry it's been a couple of months since I've been able to upload something. It's just been, things have been really hectic for me lately. But like I said, we're going to, more content, stuff like that. In other news, wife and I have been married for just over 2 years now. We just celebrated our 2nd anniversary. So yeah, everything's going great. I got a wonderful family, wonderful in-laws. On that side of things, I can't complain too much. So I got a wonderful support network, and you guys are all great for bearing with me. So thank you so much for watching. Subscribe if you haven't already. I am on social media, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, so feel free to follow me there. I tend to post more there, just kind of quick stuff, sometimes humorous stuff, sometimes stuff I'm working on. So stuff like that I may or may not be filming. Anyway, I've rambled on for 22 minutes now, so I'll let you guys go. Thank you all for watching, and I appreciate your continued support. Take it easy, everyone.